With so much misinformation out there about nail anatomy and what's cuticle, what's okay to cut, I wanted to do a quick refresh on nail anatomy before we get into how we prep nails for product application. Hey guys, I'm Liz from the Nail Hub, and I just finished taking off one hand of my nails. I have not touched my cuticles at all, so I want to use this as an example before we get into how we actually prep the nail for reapplication or how we do removal, all of that stuff. I wanted to do a quick refresher on what is the nail plate and what are all the parts around it. I think this is one of the areas that I see so many differences in terminology, in what's okay, what's not okay. So I wanted to quickly discuss nail anatomy with you guys today, and also how I personally view things and how I personally prep the nail, so that as we go through product application, removal, fills, all of that stuff, we can all speak the same language. Okay, so let's start with our overview and our terminology. So today I want to go over the anatomy of a nail. We're going to talk about what is cuticle, because that is a very, very big topic and everyone has a different idea of what they think cuticle is. How we identify living skin, and also some common prep tools. And again, we're going to do the manual style first before we get into e-filing. I want you guys to understand the fundamental techniques before we start talking about shortcuts and faster, quicker ways. Terminology you're going to need to know is eponychium, which I will show you in a second, cuticle, nail plate, sidewall, free edge, and cuticle area, which is different than cuticle. Okay? All right, so I am going to switch over to a nice little picture I have here for you guys. Okay, first off, let's take a look at the anatomy of an actual finger. I found this picture online, but I've made a couple changes to it because it's funny. I've been looking for a good nail anatomy picture, and every picture I find has different words that have nothing to do with what reality is, or they're too medical or whatever. So I made a couple changes. All right, so let's start at the very, very back of the finger, so to the left side of the photo, and let's talk about the nail matrix. Okay, so the nail matrix, and if I can bring in my hand for you guys really quick, the nail matrix is really back in this part of our finger. So it's the part that we can't see. It's hidden underneath the tissue. And this is where our fingernail grows from. Now I know you guys are probably cringing looking at my nails, but I left them like this because I wanted to show you guys exactly what it looks like when you're going to do some cuticle prep. So our nail matrix is back in here. The root of the nail is essentially the first part of the nail plate that starts to grow from the matrix. So the nail matrix makes our nail plate, and then the root of the nail is the very, very back part where the nail starts to grow from. Then we have the proximal nail fold, which is the skin that is the thickest part of the skin that just barely starts to touch our nail plate on the exterior of our finger. And I also have the eponychium, the nail plate itself, the nail bed, which is the part underneath the nail plate. That's like if you were to peel off your nail, that squishy part underneath that would be bleeding like crazy is your nail bed. So that's the part that keeps your nail plate attached to your hand. And we also have the free edge, the fingertip, which is, the phalanx, which is the bone inside of our finger, and also the hyponychium. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what this looks like on a real person. So up here I have my matrix. I then have the root of the nail, which you still can't see. It's inside of my finger before it gets exposed, before it grows out. I have my proximal nail fold, which is this part back in here, this skin that makes the fold onto my nail plate. My eponychium is the skin that starts to grow out onto the nail plate. The nail plate itself is this whole area, this whole piece is my nail plate. My nail bed is underneath. So if I were to take off my nail, which would be really gross, my nail bed is underneath my nail plate. The free edge is this part right here on the very end. So this part that grows off the tip of my finger is the free edge. And the free edge could be anywhere. It could be back here because the person bit their nail down. It could be way out here. And we also talk about free edge of artificial nails as well. So this is the whole free edge. This whole part that's sticking off of my finger is the free edge. And this part right here is the free edge of my real nail, okay? Obviously I've got a bone inside my finger. I've got my fingertip here with all this nice cushiony flesh right there. And then I've got my eponychium, which is underneath. So the eponychium is actually the part where your nail bed attaches to the nail plate. And if you wear long nails for a really long time, or sometimes genetically speaking, certain people, their eponychium is very extended. So you might see people's eponychium sticking all the way out past their fingertip. Just depends on the person's anatomy. Okay, so that is the anatomy of the actual finger itself. And I wanted to show you also a really good picture of what this looks like on a real finger so you guys can see up close. I really like this photo because it actually shows you the difference between the eponychium and the cuticle. A lot of people think the eponychium is the cuticle, and that's actually not the same thing. The eponychium is that skin that is kind of semi-translucent. So right behind the eponychium is the proximal nail fold. The proximal nail fold is that skin that is right there at the base of our nail plate. The eponychium is that thin skin that's attached to the proximal nail fold. And then the cuticle is actually that dried tissue that grows out onto the nail plate. So it detaches from the eponychium and grows out onto the nail plate. And then of course we also have hangnails. Hangnails are kind of free-flying pieces of skin that have become detached from our finger. And sometimes they tear and they cause bleeding. But they are loose pieces of skin that often, we can help to remove, or sometimes they need to heal on their own. So I wanted to kind of show you guys these pictures so that you can get an idea of the types of areas that we're working with when we're working on an actual nail. And I want you guys to take an opportunity to pause this video, take a look at your own fingers, and figure out where all of your different parts are. Depending on different people's genetics and all of that, all of our fingers are very different. And you'll notice that even from finger to finger, it'll vary a lot. I find that fingers that get used a lot have maybe thicker cuticle, maybe a thicker eponychium. More delicate fingers like your pinkies often have very, very thin skin. So I want you guys to pause this video, take a moment to check out your actual anatomy on your finger, identify where your eponychium is, where your cuticle is on your nail plate, and take a look at how your nail is formed because it's gonna vary a lot from mine. All right, so let's take one more close look at my hand. So you guys can see, and I'm gonna use my little cuticle pusher here to point to the different areas. So my matrix is hidden inside my finger back here. This area right here where I actually have skin is the proximal nail fold. I also have my eponychium, which is this skin that is attached to the proximal nail fold. I've got cuticle that grows out, so you guys can see a little bit of cuticle right in here. This part, this white line, is cuticle that's grown out onto my nail plate. And then I have the nail plate itself, which I still have gel on my nails. So you'll see this white line or this blue line is actually leftover product. But I like to take my color off so I can check my nail plate so I can see that there's no infections, no issues there. So I've got my gel still on my nail plate and my free edge is here. And then if I turn these upside down, under here is my eponychium, which these are very dusty because I just removed my nails. Let me see if I can brush these out a little bit for you. Okay. So underneath I've got my eponychium, which is where my finger attaches to my nail plate. So you can see my eponychium right there, okay? And we never want to separate this because it's very, very important to protect that space between our nail plate and our finger. Our nail bed is very susceptible to infection, so we don't want to mess with our eponychium too much. Quick note on that, if you do have really, really extended eponychiums, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to clean all that dust out of there. If you have really extended eponychiums and they're, some people you'll see they're like all the way out to about here, like almost the length of my free edge, their eponychium is stuck all the way out. A good thing to do with yourself or with a client is give them a manicure brush that they can take home and have them scrub underneath their nails daily. It'll help get that eponychium to recede gently without separating it. Not like scrubbing like crazy, just naturally, washing your hands, Scrub underneath your nail plate at least once a day. It'll help get that eponychium to recede. And also, it happens naturally. The longer you wear your nails, the more likely it is that your eponychium is going to extend over time. And it's just because it's starting to support the length that you wear on your fingernails, okay? So that's my anatomy, okay? And you guys can see on the different fingers. So it's gonna vary on yours, and that's why I wanted you guys to take a moment to check out how your fingers look and the difference in the anatomy. And then I wanted to quickly talk about the types of tools. So let's talk about how I would identify what I'm going to remove and how I make these look nice and clean again, because that's our goal as a manicurist, or even if we're working on ourselves, we want to make our nails look nice and clean, and we want to also make sure that we're able to apply product without lifting. So we want to get rid of all of the shine on our natural nail if it's regrown. We want to get rid of all the dead skin. So how do we do that? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about tools. So first tool is your basic cuticle pusher. This is what we would call a spoon head cuticle pusher because it has kind of a spoon on it. And on the other end, it has this little scraper piece. And the scraper is really to gently help remove dead cuticle that is on the nail plate. Now remember, the cuticle is not this part of my finger. The cuticle is actually this, okay? So the cuticle is that dried skin that's on the actual nail plate itself, and so that little scraper tool helps me to remove that, okay? So this is a spoon head cuticle pusher. Now there's also spoon head cuticle pushers that have a different type of pusher on the other end. I actually really like pushers like this. Now this is not something that I have available, but I don't even remember where I got this, to be honest. But I really like this because it pushes back, like it just kind of, it pushes back against the finger. The only disadvantage is it's a little bit more aggressive. So for someone who has sensitive skin, you're probably just gonna wanna stick with your basic spoon head cuticle pusher like so, and with the little scrapey bit on the end. Sometimes they have a point, sometimes they have this type of curved scraper. And there's also cuticle pushers that are a little bit more simple. They're just flat, like so. Okay, so it's got a curved end or a flat end. And it really doesn't matter. It's total personal preference. I know you guys are probably thinking, Liz, tell me which one I need to buy. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. They're all very similar. You'll also see cuticle pushers like this that are stone. Now, this is my personal one that I only use on myself. I do like these a lot. I think they are really nice because they act as a nail file, a cuticle pusher, and they help prep the nail plate. But the disadvantage with these is that you have to be very careful about how you clean them, because this whole portion right here is a type of pumice stone and it does absorb things. So if you're working on someone, I would recommend you get one that is for each client and is theirs. I think that's a really nice thing to do, and they're not expensive, but I don't like using these between clients specifically because it is a porous surface and it's very hard to make sure that this is perfectly sanitized. So I prefer to use metal so that I can absolutely disinfect it, sanitize it, or if I have my autoclave, I can sterilize it, and I know that this is going to be perfectly 110% clean, okay? So if we're talking about how to identify what we're going to remove, okay, I just want to show you quickly how we push back cuticles to begin with, and then we'll get into more complex stuff as we move through these lessons. So when we push back our cuticles, a lot of people, they tip their cuticle pusher up like this in order to push back the cuticle. They do it at about 45-degree angle. We don't want to do this because what we're doing is we're putting downward pressure on the nail plate, and if we're shoving this back, we're also putting downward pressure on our matrix, which over time can damage our nails. Okay, remember, our nail matrix is where our nail grows from, and if that gets damaged, we're going to ruin our entire nail plate because it's going to grow in a deformed way and our nail plate will never be normal again. So when you do your cuticle pushing, I want you to actually put it at more of a parallel angle, like so. So instead of up like this, I want you to flatten it down so it's kind of like a seamless transition, like so. And then you're just going to gently push back and forth like that, okay? A lot of people are going to ask me, well, why aren't I using cuticle remover? I try to avoid cuticle remover at all costs. A lot of cuticle removers have acids in them that can be irritating. They also have oils and creams that I do not want anywhere near my nail plate when I'm going to be working with product. So I do everything dry. And I know you guys are going to think, oh my gosh, she's crazy, but I do everything dry. So I'm just going to gently push back, okay? And I just use kind of like a back and forth gentle motion. I'm not using a lot of pressure. I'm just trying to gently scrape any dead tissue, or even sometimes residual product if you've got top coat or, you know, kind of gel that you got back there, it was touching skin, okay? So just nice and gentle, back and forth. I'm gonna dust this off so you guys can see, okay? So can you guys see how that kind of pushed the skin back? And it also removed all this gunk. All this on my cuticle pusher is dead skin right there. That's all the cuticle that was on my nail plate, okay? So now that I have this kind of scraped off, again, I can flip over my cuticle pusher and I can use that scraper end to go into the corners a little bit more. And I'm showing you first the most manual way to do this because I think it's important to understand what we're doing before we start going into automated techniques like e-files. So I'm just trying to get all that dead tissue off of the nail plate, and I'm trying to be very gentle but removing all of the dead skin, okay? And as you're working, it's a good idea to dust off everything so you can see what you're doing. So you can see that I've got that dead tissue off of my actual nail plate back here. And then I can do one more push just to push back the skin gently and get it maximum exposure of the nail plate. Because if I'm doing a fill or a manicure or something, I wanna make sure I get that skin back and away, okay? So now if I look at my nail from the side, you'll see that the skin is now pushed away, and I've also got this dead skin that's flicked up here like that. Can you guys see that right there? Okay, so that's the stuff that we would take off with a nipper, and I'm gonna do nipping in our next video because I think that requires a full explanation on nippers. But I just wanna show you guys kind of what we're talking about with the anatomy, how to get the dead tissue off of the actual nail plate, and that is the actual cuticle, is that dead material on the nail plate itself. So I can go through my other nails, and I'm not worried about the product right now, the gel that's on there. I'm just pushing everything back. And I actually, I do this usually right after I remove the color. So I just remove most of the color, and then I push back the cuticles and remove everything. And that way when I file and I finish removing any lifting or blending any old product, I'm able to prep the nail plate and remove the old product all at the same time. So here I've got a little bit of blue left over from my nail, it doesn't matter. So you just gently kind of push. Pinkies are a little bit harder because they're so small, okay? And again, I'm using a low angle with my cuticle pusher, so if you guys can see from the angle, it's like about that. Just going back and forth, nice and gentle. And on the sides. Okay, getting all that pushed back. I can flip this around for you guys. Like that. And it gently releases off, even without cuticle remover. If you have the type of skin, so if your eponychium grows way out, like my husband's Mexican, and I find that his nails, the skin grows like in a sheet onto his nail plate a little bit. If you have that, just make sure you're in front of the skin and just gently work it back. And it's gonna take a while, but you're just gonna gently work it back like so. And I find that cuticle pushers that have more of this type of push, so that if you see from the side, it really gets in front of the skin and it pushes back like that. Can you see that? So I like this because it really does make sure that it goes in front of the skin and it doesn't slip up and go over. So if you do have that type of cuticle that really grows out onto your nail plate and you haven't done your nails ever, or it's been a really long time, I do recommend pushing that back. I don't ever use water. I know that also might sound crazy, but I don't ever use water. I don't ever use cuticle remover. I just find that that really causes problems when I get to my product application. And water actually can damage our nails because our nails are like little sponges. Our nail plate absorbs a lot of water, and it can make our nails curl, it can make our nails dehydrated, and it also affects the application of our product. So I just gently push everything back, And I'll do this one this time so you guys can see. So with this, I just push back. This is also great on toes too, these type of cuticle pushers that have this part on the end. And I'm sorry, I'll have to look up what it's called and put it below the video because I don't remember what these are and I don't remember where I got this. Okay, so just pushing all the skin back, and then you can dust everything off. I always use these type of manicure brushes when I'm cleaning people's nails. Again, this is mine, so it's gross and dusty. But in the salon, you can actually buy these in bulk. I think they're like 10 cents a piece. You can sanitize them in quats, and so you're always using a clean brush rather than a dust brush. So this makes sure that the brush that you're using around their cuticle area is perfectly sanitized. If you use an actual like powder type dust brush, they're very difficult to sanitize, so I like to use a clean brush on everybody, okay? And you can also pump alcohol on it and clean the nails too that way. So once I dust all the stuff off, I can see that the skin is now pushed back. I don't have that dead tissue on my nail plate anymore, so you can see right in here, but you can see the natural shine. So I'm gonna go through, and before I get into the nipping section, I'm gonna go through and blend that old product and remove the natural shine. I don't nip before this. Why? Can anybody guess why I don't nip before this part? Well, the reason why is when we nip, we are exposing new fresh skin, and I don't want to go ahead and file on that fresh skin. I'd rather do it on this dead skin and see if I can remove some of it through the process. So this dead skin is going to be less sensitive, which means while I'm doing this prep process, I'm not going to be hurting my client or making them feel sensitive to the sensation of getting their finger filed. So I always do the nipping after I'm done with all of this part of the process. So I'm just going to go through gently, make sure all of my old product is blended into the nail using very, very light pressure. And I go through on the natural nail with the 180 side. And just remove that natural shine. Can you guys see that? And I've got a teeny little perimeter here, but that's not lifting, that's just a little edge on the product, okay? So I just wanna make sure I remove all the natural shine, blend everything, and I can also take this opportunity to shape the nails a little bit, okay? So I'm gonna go through all of them, blend that old product, and you'll see me pulling back my skin so that I'm just focusing on the nail plate itself. I wanna avoid the skin. Getting rid of all that residual color that's on there. And if you do have a little bit of lifting, you actually are gonna want to file just before the lifting. I remember I saw an awesome video by Gemma Lambert back in the day, and she showed how to remove lifting, and basically you wanna file just in front of it. So if you wanted to blend this line, you're gonna blend in the direction of the line, and you're gonna file on that, not on the actual nail. Because sometimes when you attack, lifting areas, you're actually filing too much on the natural nail. And if you file just before it, it'll actually fall off. That lifted part will fall off. That way you're not causing rings of fire. So very, very gently going through. I'm just blending everything, just using a nice flat angle on my nail file, and just gently going over the nail plate once to remove the natural shine. I am taking it for granted that you guys already had your client wash their hands and sanitize their hands, but if you want me to do a video on that, I can do that as well, but I take that for granted that you guys have your clients wash their hands, sanitize their hands. It's a very basic step to make sure that we're not filing oils or bacteria into the nail plate while we're doing this. Okay, and then last but not least, the pinky. My pinkies are really little, so sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to get in there, especially on yourself. Just blending the old product. And again, this is the most manual process to do it this way with a hand file. And it's also, you can see, a little bit difficult in some tight areas with a file. That's why those stone cuticle pushers are nice, because they do a good job of removing the natural shine. But like I said, I'm a big fan of using a new tool on every person, or at least making sure that they're perfectly sanitized. So I don't like to use stuff that is porous that I can't perfectly sanitize. So if you're gonna do a stone pusher, that's awesome, I love them, but please make sure that you're using a new one on every client, or that, you know, the client has theirs or whatever. Okay, and then the thumb. Have a little bit of pink. So see how, like, right here I've got a little bit of product that looks like it's going to come off, like this little section right here. So what I try and do is file in the direction of the line until it starts to come off and blend, and you'll see it starts to just come right off like that. Can you guys see how that came off? And I don't want to focus right on here because this is my nail plate, this is product, so I don't want to file too much on my natural nail, so that's why you do it just before. Just be really gentle. Your nails only have so many layers, and so if we go crazy, you know, our nail only grows so much in 2 weeks, and so we want to just be gentle with our natural nails so that we have natural nail left by the time it grows out here. I mean, from this part to the free edge out here, this is probably almost 6 months, depending on the person. I would say 4 to 6 months. On me, it's probably 5 to 6 months because my nails grow pretty slow. But it takes, I mean, depending on the length of the nail bed, I mean, it can take up to 6 months to get this part of the nail. So if I put a little red dot right here and I let it grow 6 months, it would be out here. So if we think about touching our natural nail over and over and over again and filing on it over and over and over again, pretty soon it gets really worn out. And so that's why we just want to be really gentle when we're doing this type of, you know, product removal, filing, all of that. And that's also why I leave product on my nails all the time, because this section here, it grew out, you know, to about there, right? So this is all new growth. And if I need to remove a little bit of thin old product, I can do that. But at least, you know, I'm not touching this part of my nail over and over again. I'm just doing the back area, and it continues to grow out and get refreshed. And that really makes a huge difference. If you're taking everything off every time, your nails are gonna get really worn out. So it's nice to just have that protective layer. Okay, so I'm gonna dust these guys off. Like so, just dust off all my fingers. Underneath is good. Okay, so that was the very, very manual technique for getting dead tissue off of our nail plate, removing the natural shine with a nail file. I actually have a teeny bit more right here that I just want to take off. I think I see a little bit of pink from that color I had. There we go. Okay. And then in our next video, I'm going to show you guys how we actually use nippers properly. Now, a lot of people are going to say that they don't like cutting the skin that I have on my finger. And it depends. Each person is different. Some people, you're going to have a big flap of skin that needs to be taken off. Some people are just going to have a teeny bit of hardened skin that you can remove with nippers. But in the next video, I'm going to show you guys how you actually remove that. And before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about how we identify what we're going to remove. So we'll do that a little bit now, and then I'll do that more in the next video when we talk about nipping, because I really want you guys to get comfortable and familiar with what we're doing. I remember one of the students I had told me she learned how to cut cuticles on a lemon peel. And I was sitting there going like, what the heck? How do you learn how to cut cuticles on a lemon peel? And I guess it's because of the texture of the skin, but the best way to learn how to cut cuticles is practice on yourself, honestly, not on clients, not on lemon peels. But the biggest piece to success with understanding how to properly work on the cuticle area is understanding what's alive and what's dead, and how to understand the risks of what we're doing, and how to make that personal choice for yourself about how far is too far, or what you think is safe for yourself and your clientele, okay? And depending on your state, depending on your country, there's a lot of laws and regulations. So if you're in an area where you are not allowed to cut skin, then don't do it. I mean, never go against anything that has to do with legal stuff in your area. It could mean losing your license. And if you're a client watching this, please do not force your manicurist to do something they don't feel comfortable with. If you want to cut your own cuticles at home, that's great. But please do not expect a manicurist to do that for you. I remember I had a client one time that her nails and fingers were so ragged from just over trimming, over filing, over nipping. And I said very nicely that I refuse to do that because your fingers need to heal and you have no dead skin that needs to be removed. And she tried to pick up my nippers and do it herself in the salon. So if you're a client watching this, please be very, very sensitive to the fact that us as manicurists, we're trying to give you a very safe, responsible service. And every manicurist has a different comfort level of what they're capable or willing to do. So I want you guys to respect that, okay? That's very, very important as part of the relationship between client and manicurist. If you're a DIYer, this is a great thing for you to learn how to do on yourself so that you understand how to take care of your nails properly and you're not gonna overdo it. Okay, so on here, how do we identify what is the skin that is going to be removed? Well, the easiest way to do this is to look for color differences. Depending on your skin tone, I find that there's one thing in common between all different shades of skin tones, and that is white. White usually means that it no longer has blood supply to it and that it's not something that is going to damage the skin if we remove it. Obviously, this skin up here is not white. This is flesh. And if I push on it, I can see that, hey, that's got a response to it, turns white, and then it turns pink after I'm done. Blood comes to it. But this skin right here, this white part, let me see if I can zoom in even more than this. I'm gonna try and get as close as I possibly can. Ah, that's awesome. All right, so can you guys see this like white rim of skin here? And here it's kind of white, but you can see it's not very thick, right? I mean, if I push down on it, so let me push down on it really quick so you guys see. Can you guys see, like if I push down on it, you see that flesh right there? So it's not very big piece of skin that I can remove because my proximal nail fold is right there. And this skin is technically eponychium. It's not cuticle that's grown out onto the nail plate. It's actually skin that is still attached to the proximal nail fold, which is technically eponychium. Now, there are certain people that say they would never in a million years nip the skin off. There are nail techs that would nip this and probably all the way back to here just to get it to look nice and clean. I am somewhere in the middle. I would absolutely remove this skin. Now, I typically don't do that with nippers. I do that with an e-file, but we're just gonna do this the manual way. So in the next video, I'm gonna show you guys how I actually trim this skin off. And we'll also talk a little bit more about tools as far as cuticle nippers versus cuticle scissors and the differences between the different types of tools for removing this type of tissue. But I want you guys to at least see that like right here is living tissue and just this teeny, teeny, teeny semi-white, you know, off-white line is the dead skin that I could potentially remove. And on here, I barely have any. See here how I really don't have any skin here in the center? I've got a little bit here on the corners, but not a lot. So I want you guys to be cognizant of that. Take a close-up look on your own fingers and really start to get familiar with what is living tissue on you, what is dead tissue, and look for color differences. White is a great thing to look for when you're trying to figure out where the dead skin is and where the living skin is, okay? All right, guys, I hope that helps. And like I said, we'll follow this video with a lesson on nippers and how to actually nip that dead tissue. But I wanted to just break down the nail anatomy, get you guys to understand what is cuticle, what is eponychium, what we're doing when we're doing cuticle work. And I really, really suggest you guys remove water and cuticle remover as much as possible in your services. I know that sounds insane because there is literally like a whole world that's built around water and soaking your nails, and that's how we grow up, is like, oh, manicure is soaking your fingers in water and blah, blah, blah. But it really does a number on your nail plate. It also does a number on your skin, and it makes it much more difficult for you to identify what is living tissue and what isn't when all of your skin is wet and translucent and you can't see the difference, okay? So I want you guys to just try this dry. Try it out, comment below this video, let me know how it goes, and then next week we're going to talk about nipping and how we actually do that safely and how we make sure that we're taking care of our skin in a gentle, efficient way. All right? Bye guys, thanks for tuning in.